Welcome, Mustafa, come
Radio and TV Services Studios, West Yorkshire Leeds, Stansell Mount at the seat. Mustafa Jame is my name. A weekly civic education program from studios in West Yorkshire Leeds, UK. Yo, assalamu alaikum. Badi ngolu ngal kontong mobe dauda ni be watu watjo. Konton rokola snal bismillah na programo min kasoto jang loko ni nyantemben sida na civic education programo. Nal badi malo Mustafa Jame membe sirin programo kunna nyantemben. Bokki déglu kat yi ñu leen di nuyu fii ci Sky Power Radio and TV Services Bayco Studios West Yorkshire Leeds Stansell Mount ana ak seen xarit Mustafa Jammeh nekkal leen fii ci rajo bi di leen nuyu di leen bismillah ci bunti programme civic education jamono. As usual, we've got our panelists here today. The guest is Mr. Mfali Farera. Mfali, this is the first time here. Would like to say thank you for the time, energy, and effort you used to come and join us here on Sky Power Radio and TV Services for the first time. Right, we'll come to you as the guest, Mfali. You can say hello to our viewers and listeners in any language. We don't have any boundaries when it comes to language. Kango kang abendefe muka kutua kanfo bake. Yawajo ang mandinga only local language because messaging is I put across the board. You know, to be fair. Inimbara, welcome on board, Mfali, for the first time.
Thank you very much, Mustafa. You know, akerenyo kontano ni sewori bi kakafalma. Akerenyo kontano ni sewori kete fana nyaraje. Perhaps for the first time, probably in kila video jele very malon nunko nitele nundiam kandu. But kondanda back in Seoul kana kafal majambi you know, Sky Power Radio and TV ala civic education program otobi. You know, mba dati la fanan kal bolo sei kadung nyim program o nyanta dati la nyin lokun tamila la nyanta kelanu. Bari you know, fam roman ke bake atina fam fo, you know, na choknyololu kumodolu fota nyoko je and wayat na fam so manna nyomay so wadalilo kamala kal bolo se kala moy lal fanam bolo se kadu nga kalamtala ko fen, you know, preparation jamala kadum programme olto kankularol ka kele mol ka tre yilla ka ngani usifal so nga follow wala ni mo botala doron kan na kontan ni se waytandi to express my joy to be part of the show. I'm glad to be here, and I look forward to, you know, having a very educative, frank, and candid conversation with you and the audience. Ani mol meni alon ke beben jibeka. Dol fanan ina ka dianya ni mole na ngasi nyaake naniti nga kacha ke kola membe den ni do kola alata nyamin ka dun be mole le jang. Abaraka an kondanta ba ke ka kafalma bi definitely.
Thank you very much, Mfali Ferreira. Yo, Sol, you know, yo, Sol, Suleiman Jeng, you can say greetings, Sol, whichever language.
Assalamu alaikum, deglu kati, ning jiwirlan, ning lamoylan. Manglina nuyu, mbal kontona, mbal tentula, dilen gerem, dilen santa. Tenak mangi si yon mangi tukini, henna dingen dega ilo. Noisy background. Mr. Bojan, welcome back. Didn't like it's not my lol. They won't have now time within inshallah.
Thank you.
Aziz, welcome on board. Welcome back, Aziz. It's been a while.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. Badi woru men ben la moy kangani menu be jibe kan ka kontano soto dron kanabi to nyaale musliman jeng ya fu nyame famata janna bak na do kole chinta ole atina mbuka time soto no sibitol bare alhamdulillah silan e kol falintale mbe karnalale wati ni wati kali join yin ketanyi sewo bati bi kanna alpha kendo join Suleiman me alon ko nzafoko atelem di anchor of this program ti ateninde ni bamba mas ni wolte jandron program o bukadia yo to ketanye kontani kubati anin fana bi ka fali fadera join ka moyle bari namana momaje fo nyine mun na force opportunity ti kaje on video Mustafa Mbedwale bake lo nyamen ibakan ifanamu kele jaworoleti when it comes to Gambia la nyatota itele munyinti Suleiman Jeng ndey jobate anim bamba mas alla do ko mota jono alale bali jola alama ale ali so simana njata kende abala anin sembola ni wakilo false nyinno ala bar
Ibarawake Aziz, much obliged. Ninkumbo nyama nakacha ko bil lafta ngamin jibe wala ngamin hakil maya yalon jang alfal bijang lafta ngamin hakil maya bi kacha ko wolong bengoti mi yalon akedon Gambia banko kan kamin foko OIC mfalli ninkumbo nyama ngamrete ye kujama lonje mala flen karandi kujama laje en kono to dia kujama laje kullam nendim bengo la nyala kita nyamen atata nyamen fo fenne bi je ku kili ko ko mente ya balu ko nake ke balu ko no ka Gambia dingol nafa ka banku dingol nafa aka kenyi nyabo ku bal wala ka kenyi sula ko te bake pour ka lon gos ni ko banko ni amo nyaton ko le bi je ni ko banko wala mbe dentamin ko nin ko mo nyama ko mi yalo aketa ku kam pour banku dingol la nafa banku ikawla jibe ko kono so malo nying OIC min kerata nying OIC tambila min kerata follow ni sa fono because ni modula londoto OIC fongo ngamira Gambia la mu ko fongo ngamira create birin sa do dal wato ni ngul si fal pero nin kumbo nyama follow mbela fla yin kono to dia minna nying OIC tambila min kerata yamira Gambia ko li na fa so to jela ba ne atar no abije
Abaraka bake Mr. Jame mbe konton na kodake ka mobe konton ka follow Mr. Ka Mr. Bojam fana laje yani Mr. Jeng ani mo katangol men yalon ko alni wolle kanyim programme ke nyola you know nga kala mto ko adangon de nyindi bari tumando bato maybe bulo mutata webe kafulam manyato nsebe jay ngebe tendu kela nyinin karo jabi OIC you know ndeka men fo mole ngamra follow menkela mbe ala tentula bake ni wobotala nga banko nyaton ko lakan banko dingolu anin fanan kana konoto dia fana yitandi Gambia dingol la banko nyaton ko anin Gambia man sakunda pour ñi ñom ben si fala me alon ko nga wole ke Gambia banko kanjang kayra kono du da ben kono mfindita kono kayra la wo mu alatin du bati anda na reke buñani horma fem ba katam fananti banko e kadu ni Gambia la doya jibe mbe nyamen dunia kono in fact statistically Gambia dabe bankol kono le men yalon ko to lel dango do atel dango do katambi dunia katambi bankol be la men be Africa kono mainland African countries wo nyama Gambia tombonda kanyi ñom ben hormarin sifa jia o keda ku bati akeda ku kenda bati banko e banko dingol be o dalilo kam o kola fana nim botodo nafala karola ntela miroto anin crossil jamar la jero nafa membe OIC kunnato la mota haymano la kodola katun ko nga hello Alkamelo.
Yeah, hi.
Hello?
The line is acting. For incoming callers. Hi. The line is acting.
Yes. Yeah. Nga call less because I'm using my mobile hotspot to connect. Because internet and the Wi-Fi is not connecting. But I've just put my phone on sleep mode. Hopefully no further calls will come to disrupt the network. But coming back to Fokandrom, Nina Rajibe loke OIC la nafala bankoe fenne me alon kon ta hemanola anu fenne fana me alon kon be tarla konole annafa ate kela fendi me alon ko ba fulala ko abe ndunta konole nga findi annafa be tarla jenna fo wati jam mba folo la menna ni jibe loke OIC kungo fama bela you know mbema na fam I think mbema espen kan wala mu banko ni wala ko be nyame la dunya ko ne dafa tumando bare telephone ni lon katam mintede pour banko ndingol ye darajo soto pour banko ndingol ye kan soto pour banko ndingol ye faramansa dunya ko naka kole ya baake ning alame harje nafulo do be dola you know pour ye kan soto ye faramansa ndi ko kole ya so gambia nyimbengo men soto ay gambia faramansandi le dunya nyako ndenga mi rafa nina la faramansondo la karola gambia ye faramanso menke dunya nyako do nyintili lulu karatili woron kono mameden nana ya nyong soto dodi saka akende ma fa yalo wato dolbe je ela ko se la kene bato jawma la se la kene bato nyimma fanan bari ndollide nga alaten du bake na kola la kene bato nyin kartam bilan kono janimbe bulala kono fam abe tarana da kuken dole alaten du kuba kadunga dunia bele bendi jang nge jiaku kendala so ni na somito nyin na nafala ndenga mira nsa jibe no fanna fulala fanna fala folo mendi wole mu nyaato tan yurwa koldi men yalon ko lel sototo do akono wole mu infrastructure project koldi men yalon ko OIC le sababu Gambia banko kanja e siata malo mun tumale famata Gambia la bari Gambia mbulu ngo falinta baake sako nyin kombo tuba banko kanja bibi sako ni be nyin Senegambia bursu bi kosorur mafon la you know falimbale keta banko kam ngam mana kuto soto mano me alon ko bi abe banku dingol nafa kan anda nafa be talla janka molu nafa fo sanji jama you know wo kono fanan nata memu nyim batil hadin highway project ko amam filim moma ko batil hadin highway project ko sila fata kilin nemuno you know 2-lane highway lemu sila fata killing and then yetani nasoto sila killing bari bitilo la bi batil hadin nga fanundile nga ke sila fata woroti saba tala karola saba nala karola bi famo traffic jam ka soto jam nunto kunun janni nyin silobe lola ni la fa bola Bruce Witton table Johnson to kra Senegambia aseta montro militant sabala wara mbisi ala wala Ross Awa memu suba juno di mol bela findi wato aseta more than 1 hour e man futa bari bi alhamdulillah Bruce bi ni Senegambia Johnson e so bori montro minute saba e futa yela hajo topato you know wonyama project ko tangol men yalon ko ngi doku OIC toyala wol fanam bebe janka Gambia dingol nafa andi be talla janka Gambia dingol nafa adabo kono wole mu nyin sadawda Karaba Jawara International Conference Center be diamu ke kabonan demen to teng nyin sadawda Karaba Jawara International Conference Center bi ti lola bi Gambia conference wolu nim bengol be ka ke janneto a jama babe ja be ka ke janne nin kemala mun safu fan tan senin konondo e tan senin lulu kara tan konondo kan be ka ke janne amandan banko bengol fanan dammala bari hani nanyin Africa jamma famo ben jamal fanan beje sai e jama kana kake Gambia janni nga jele African Central Bank governor yela bengo soto janne Muslim World League la force ulama bengo yemenke Africa yake janne African Union la annual meetings e ka bengol men soto human rights harma dingol la nyantoni hakko wala nyin sam fulata milan ko ne ka beke Gambia janne so e ka jele ko Gambia bi nanyin conference center la na sababo anin ku ko tangol men yalan ko wollel be ke kam banko ka tinna la fofo sain dunia nyaabe tilinkan na jang bengola karola so ni boto woto fana yene mira jionin kurangola karo fanan mbenda dun ka wotole men tara kanyam fo dalasi $1 million tanzania fula no wala sika ngadi nawek la purisa dundi ila jionin kurango kunna isaja se sahya se bete ya mul nafa you know wakono nawek nyanda ka bohololu sing membita kanya nafa bohol tang anin saba ebe water treatment plant sol fanan lola membe kela nyin dulalti ka geotabi demento ya doku janni ba pompila mol kono satol kono you know and then ila kurang faro karo fanan be transformal falinda kaje ko de ila kurang jorangol system bo soto ay mul nafa so kaje ko nyunu bemu kuleti me alon ko nani OIC le sababu ni tara airport do VVIP lounge fanan beje aw fanan be kala fendi me alon ko abe banko sembenton la baake ni na tubabu la dungoni luntangol la dungoni finto Kenya la banko kam anin fanan be nyin kato men ki conference in la karola so na famen beje a warata baake andu na famen beje fenne me alon ko amandang somito damala kewala nko fo molen ndolula OIC jam membe bulu wole mu ko OIC abe atena na fabe dala baake ning atara ay somito binala ta gambe dingol te nafa sot laji ndolu be mira kan nyin ko la nyame wala mu ko this are legacy projects nyanta kala project ko le dimini alon ko e be tarla jenne fo sanji jama ka mol nafa somito kola so ibaje
Jamni tamila peñenen kala kuma clean na iko nawe ali million jelle dundi je pour jiwonin kurango fanala pour ay sonaya so
tan saba
laftamin lon naw en laftamin lon naw kodo nyin aliya dundi non before somenin bang ko somenin la kono le aliyo million tan sabadi nawe
no ñin so ñin o project o kodo design avec la long since janin summit bina it was supposed to be part of avec la preparation as part of the summit ke sembentu yandi isaje crown in geo as a tembe no ay sabati summit wato kono ba hani summit o botala sa tara jam fana gambe dingol la fa so avec la project o mira ba one of our strategic projects na mindila
ni aje nga wonyenen ka because jionin kurango woman sabatino wo ko do million tan sabo be dun tan na regla kunna pour we sabati andu woman na sabati hani conference la wato ni so mune wono andu man sakunda e mune ke pour ka je ko wo nyanta sabati la non before conference ni commence because wala mun ha moti pour woyete
elo nyin karo kumara bakire you know bari yalon tolu in terms of na doko Kenya be nyame just like with the road project where we raise the money work with national agencies nge empower nge nyo dema nga mata nyo fe foni la project ko lota nga project ko labelu ndol nga tenten kudola because the ento law office jibe na mandate be nyame ku jamalem nsafo ku sabalem is kata kana fulo nyini mem resource mobilization di ni na fulo nyini nga kafu nga nyim na fulo ta nge dundi project ko kunna ni nga project ko ta fo nim project yolu ye nyonene foi project ko da simfulola nga nyati linkudola and in this case that is what happened what we did, we raised these monies together with NAWEC and other relevant government agencies you know lota kola fo nga akota nga la NAWEC bulu nga contractor nyini and supervisor lu meni alon ko lel ba do ko kegam so NAWEC la OIC project ko afanam materialize as much as we had expected in anticipation of the summit. The money was successfully mobilized, but the implementation you will time uta. And then, from what I understand, it has to do with the contracting processing because and then contractual regulation also requires that they have to be involved in the process at every stage of it, and now COVID-19 was a major factor may delivery. I also understand other contracting issues were also a problem. Though from what I understand, tender new float emanna company soro many alonko will respond adequately. I think it was only one company may responder, and the company may respond will not have bid and in project money if what and yoko numbake wokera fendi malon ko ngakalamata nunje. But hopefully NAWEC will be in a better position to explain that further. But it is something that we managed to raise for them. But even if they were not able to complete it in time, until a miro moment wala muko hopefully ni implement and then jikita ko cake and nata da fa kumfara ana fa betar la jenne Gambian wali inshallah.
Akumata ila diamo kono ya for fengol minni for tonyala e kumata le surdo ye infrastructure for ye conference for holo for ye electricity in the work you all be for ila diamo kono le mpalle very biti lo Gambia la sulo minti ndeni Gambia la sulo minti priority momenti ndeni te be ngamera hanim malo nyat subila wolale because ku ne ajibe janni moba ku kala maybe a kono la batara la farim fight energy soto pour ka wo ku keno so ndenga on top of the list priority nyanda kala mindi wolo balu be sone ala no nyamen to nyalo nyunu bebe enim balu wo nyoma la pour balu wo sone ya bari well domoro ngamero wo nyanda kala priority de jang comme toli abe nyamen we've got fertile line banko mimbaya nse fengo be la ka falin tolia bari tol andong because ne ajibe pour banko to e funde banko la kodo e funde banko la koelo mole banko bunya ko nyanda kala bankule de miya lonko afanan ka fenne bonde dunia mol kan ka fo made in the Gambia yim fana mo Gambia ya fam but in we got fatal line pour ka woke no bari ndenga mira no wonyanda kala opportunity la the priority la the ko alu Gambia kan ay sonea because ngalan nyin sutol pour ka wol keno na ko nyati lo manke wala faka ke kulti min ya conference hall infrastructure wasilo nde mo Gambia man karosi bari ngasilo ima bete a fenna mo bete asilol do ndaga silol min ni sila dala ke kenya ndala jeroto because silo ni borta silo nyin kan ka bondi airport Johnson do kata Senegambia mamera health and safety nil health and safety loi bije mamera fembe je yemi abide by because ni ajibe mol min ni bodla silo tije mi comme ning mobe min ga yarambambo sila dato nim mola mo tingo bala wa accident so do ibuka sela no silo kan dulato fo aka fo je nyaade le fo I don't know janika fo sukra to round about to turntable do comme wol fango wol adadanya bar min ko mata nyi go fango lafta min nyi kala ja wala nyi ndiko minatina kol min ko balola so nya mankale priority ti ko ko mamer
abaraka ba kelo nyi ngaro kono fano bari martin follow la memu baluwati janim bina fatala silo la kodo ye baluwo la kofo ngamira na jabil follow be kala mendi woto wala muko ntolu government warata government ke kolu ila fina ko warata tumando baro balobe soni ala nyamen bundal be jele men yalon ko lel kama mangoto more directly than dollar office dollar mandate was to focus on the summit bari wo nyama ni imari ni meye banku dokol Kenya faham ikajele ko man sakundal fanan ila ferol to jama ka menke e ka banku dingol lel sembentu yandi ye sembentu yandi la soto la karola julani safaro la karola fo soto bulo se wara ase sonia wo fanay ji mol kam fay futé la balu dinkiraldo wala tine ka silolu lo isa je nin silolu lo tani na se tariya ase sonia e ba jele se ibe bata men soto la tani na la karola maybe ni mu julodi wol dol seta maybe ika me menke silo kan ananyum fensi fa ko to wol base sonia so e kajele ko ndolla nyim project kol be ni ejibe at the end of the day even though ni project somi dole to yala bari ni mu feneti malongo ibe talla jenne ka gambe dingol ta ki nafa silol ite silol ne ko bring the roads and everything else will follow nin sila kendo sodo dawoda sila kendo na sodo dawoda o fana ma fansu yurwale o fana it spurs what they call economic activities ntolel be sirin gambia jang nin silo en tol nafa nyamen tol ngalone comme nga foy nyamen silo nying e yemenu fo wol dol be jele me yatina wol dol wi ko men explain kwa mankita ko dola because silo nying it's still been abedo kukan it's still been worked it's still a work site it's abedo kukan na mampare so nim fongo men mando ko ay pare ni aje fongo silo yele hino ni bala fala yatina isa fono lembe silo soro nale fo ni silo tara banda fa fo ngalon ka bandale nga chabola man sakunda bulu ya yele mole but the approach has been ni any section doku ya je ko motol setamino je la mela doku tinya ya yele mole je use so wole be caring silo nyim mampare wan
imamere nyin ko fanan koronto
nsodomandi ngana nsodomandi misaboya mani so wole mu ko nyinde silo nyimbe doku kan wo mu kilinadi lafa ko seneyandi je so wole yatina bar ni ajibe ete ko boto ja 1 month ni molu nyini nga men yalon ko lelen silo je bi wara kunu ba fulende ko yin silo lu be nunele ye sleeping police ke dula dol dran la demendo ye guard rail sol finance lole kabonan ka all yundum yaram bamba silam fosile bina futala ton table wo bebe ke kana it's work in progress so wombe futala wotole bari even though silo fa mom pare ba nafa ko abe molu nafa kam yaje so in terms of conference center for example the conference center also is generating a lot of revenue for this country this last
Aziz yes
$100 million
Mfali hakobo ndi nyanga intervene demanding. But after a point of correction lekela, I think it's in our mindset. Ila foko ise silo soron nole ya foko foya bang. It seems like silo yele was a favor I don't want Femomea Lonko is public right. Alka portray as a favor. I don't I don't feel comfortable with that kind of language. Part of the planning should be that Nibesilo Dokula, they provide access route for people.
Yes.
So the fact that Imawoke Silo Yele is not a favor. So let's come back to the topic itself.
It's no domanding not
I don't need an answer. I don't need an I don't want an answer to that. This is a general comment.
It's a clarification I want to make.
Okay, you go ahead.
Yes. So Lafaka Memfo, Silo ni access, I think also the alternative routes. Na Silo Lusotele diversionolu, mototiolu be imuna fanka mena. There are alternative diversion small be use can Silo danda wala. You know, will be jele, but coming ame esfeni, was Silo be nyaming, you know, inata samakono, dinkolu siata, molka panje, ekaje fon Silo
excuse me. I'm not letting you go further with that. The alternative route, Kafoko Samakono Wolman Betea, whose fault is that? Why would that now translate into a favor? I don't want us to get into that. I want to give you all the credit, but left at this kind of mindset now, Bondi, because whatever we are doing, we're doing it in the name of the taxpayer.
Exactly.
So when you do something that you are supposed to do, it should not come out as a favor. That's the point I'm trying to make. You can still choose to continue, but that's not the point I'm coming. I want to do you a favor and ask a few questions. Nyintopiko kamemfo bi wole mnyintiko. For the OIC was a success or a failure or a waste of money. I cannot determine that without defining what is success and what is failure. So I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
What do we mean by success? Is it in terms of the organization of the OIC or the outcome of the resolutions that have been taken or the number of participants?
Yeah.
These are things I want to ask, and these are items that I want us to deal one after the other to see. And we should try to measure it against other OICs that have been organized. Then when we come to waste, here, I want us to look at what has been mobilized, what have been utilized, what has been promised, and what are we seeing? Because now longer this OIC was touted to be a huge benefit for the country. Even after the OIC is done, Gambia would have transformed significantly, not only in infrastructure, but even in trade and economy. Has that been realized? These are the kind of questions that we now need to ask. Now, when you come to asking the organization itself, given that this has been in the making for unprecedented 3 years
or
more, which in other contexts would not have taken this long. I want to believe Nkasilo Lumemfo should have been something in the of the past, because we have 3 good years to run this. Let me learn. I can stop. When you I gave you I was looking at my watch. No, I was looking at my watch, and you took probably 20 minutes, and I was mute.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So let me learn, because I want this left a molusa long.
No, it's okay.
Yes, this thing has been in the making for 3 years. Sanji Saba. Every year is a fonyoko. This yamba kelele. A monkey. I'll come in for you when I'm mampare. We cannot come up to today. Follow. We generously open it to allow the program to go on.
No.
We were promised 5-star hotels. What happened to that? Now, when you come to the organization, would you say this is a success?
Right, okay.
Where so how many heads of state do we have? In fact, Niajibe, you can call it an ECOWAS OIC because most of the heads of states may attend are from ECOWAS, except for 2 countries, Somalia and Sudan. Mayor Lonko, they took the opportunity to come and highlight the security situation. Mune atina other heads of states manna. Is this an indication of a failure in our diplomacy? Are we aggressive enough? Because in organization at a time when we have a president who is even shy to go out and interact with other heads of state. And these are the results. But those big weights, me alonko tomorrow, aside from the OIC, we can enter into some bilaterals with them. Is it that we have not been aggressive enough?
Thank you, Aziz. Thank you, Aziz. Abaraka, thanks. Vali?
Mr. Jambe, Abaraka and Mr. Bojambe, but clearly, I think you can tell that, and hopefully, Mr. Boja will help me to make sure that, I try to respond as much as possible adequately to all the questions I mentioned. So in terms of the successes, let me start with that. I wanted to talk about the road diversion, but is kind of beside the point, in the sense that, there were diversions, and then, Silo Yeleta on humanitarian grounds. But more importantly, in terms of the success of the summit itself, Nadia Mokono Nia Jibe, Nkoiko, Somito Ning Ala Nafa, Nsajibe no Fanafulaldo. In the aspect of the infrastructure, but also the event itself, the coming of the hosting of the event itself, and Nafa Mensoro, and things along that line. So Ndela Miroro, Nyininkaro Menge is a very good way into getting into the answer, the crux of the answer of this question. Wolemu, what does success mean for a country that is the host country, Gambia? Nico, success for host country is simple. For host country, as far as success is concerned, because we have a metric that we can measure our activities with. We've been working with the OIC, and they have what they call the organizational and technical arrangements. They call it the OTA. This is where they outline what is expected of you as a host country in your preparations. So Ntolu OTA generally atata nara, the metrics are logistics, administrative, and technical. This is what is expected of host countries. And we have done remarkably well in terms of the logistics, in terms of the administrative and the technical aspect of our arrangements. Because Somito Taranara, Molusuata Munela, Ibe Ginola Demento, without much hassle, that is the airport. We had a VVIP lounge. We had a very robust system in place that made sure that all the guests came and they arrived seamlessly. It was televised live on TV. Everybody was full of praise about how seamless everything was. Now, Botawala, Wolemu, to be ferried to their destination, to be still Sabatla Demendo. Nga motol fanan samanang, motol meni alonko, they are very befitting of the guests that we expect. Motolu na rangebe isamba, mang any issues in terms of the movement of the guests. All the guests were adequately ferried from the airport to their hotel, from the hotel to their residences, and residences to the conference center. What is the next thing? Is the meeting facility. We have a state-of-the-art conference center here that can accommodate meetings of any kind. And the more many alonko, they saw the images for themselves, the pictures and the videos. They saw what we did. It was state-of-the-art furniture, state-of-the-art arrangement, state-of-the-art, logistics. Landi conference center to jam. We were able to facilitate the meetings, all the meetings, from the senior officials meetings to the ministerial to the summit. And these are things many along meeting all them, a lot goes into it. Even in terms of the simultaneous interpretation, we have the capability. We were able to facilitate all of that in all the official languages of the OIC. So ngakulu bege, everything was in place, the arrival, the ceremonies, and everything. So munefanan mu next the feeding of the guests. All the guests many along they were all fed, be it at their residences in the apartments and hotels, and in at the conference center. So Nina will be GB. You look at all these technical requirements, all these logistics. We did remarkably well. To the disappointment of the people that we are hoping that we are going to fail. And I can tell you for free, there were people holding their breath, hoping that the Gambia and the Secretariat will fail. But I think the widespread view, which I think reflects the true picture of the situation, is that we did a remarkable job in terms of organizing the summit. We did a great job. And then Nina Hajibe Lo Fananke, the other aspect of the success, Wolemu the Nafati, Nin Somito be Mewulula Gambia, Somito la Bengokola. If you look at near OIC la Nafajibe, just because of this, by virtue of the event of the summit, that will be very, very, very limiting. It's going to be very limiting. How can we just expect, just because we have a meeting of heads of state and then we expect a magical transformation of our economy? It doesn't work like that. The hosting of the summit, Niaje Moluka Suti and the economic transformation in Kodola, will little the infrastructure projects the animenu naranyola. Number one. The other thing is, what do we do with the opportunity of being at the helm of the OIC leadership? There is a lot that is possible. And my view is that the conclusion of the summit is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. Summito Natala Tatale is just the beginning. Gambia is now at the helm. The OIC is a big organization, just like the United Nations. And they are into a lot of things. They are into innovation. They are into science and technology. They are into trade. They are into cultural promotions. They are into almost everything.
But I'm finally, me diamu kundugo. You call me beke for thing. Olbe mukulle de minne alongo for actually alda ke woro ndama fenje wolto requirements yes ale all midle but with the standard but me alongo aba filter down to the basic Gambian or coming afko anga rice farm la jara somo o base decentralization on kuleke well ndama aussi falje for ndela mang alongo
that is a development blueprint that you cannot heap on the OIC. Me alongo their mandate is very specifically defined. I started my conversation with clearly talking about our mandate.
This could have been, an avenue to tap into.
Mr. Jame, so Ndola mandate was clearly defined. So Niben Tola progress in performance judge la, the fair thing would be to look at our key performance indicators and judge our activities and our performance against that. So in terms of dollar resource mobilization, close to $300 million raise to go into infrastructure projects. In terms of this infrastructure implementation, yes, not all the projects were finished on time, but some were finished, some are still being implemented, and then others did not turn out as we desired. But at the end of the day, all these projects, if they should reach their logical conclusion, ika memfo abe address la wole mu ka Gambia dingol nafa comme nga memfo silola koro ni silola nafa on the state is because he mantra Gambia le ndolu men be Gambia nu njang hani mol men fon kana semestin la niaje jamal ka fo ko fonde Gambia mbukala taje semestin la ka muna fe buka fenkeno.
Okay, honorable Bijane, honorable Bakari is here. Me along got on the ground lay because Muslim I congested on the sub. Honorable Bakari.
Mr. Jame, hello.
Yeah.
Listen, so no demanding 2 minutes drone. Let me make a quick point.
All right, go
Even
for it.
in terms of our summit plan in Fanam, there was a lot of investment into the domestic economy by virtue of the companies and the businesses that we contracted. 90% of all the contracts that we dish out are Gambian company run by young people. Covering na conference center maintenance, the painting, the cleaning, the assorbing, everything. Gambian company. And on top of that, each of these sectoral menialonko, they have a vital stake in improving lives and livelihood in the Gambia. They all benefited significantly. The Ministry of Health, received $30 million. That we are even going to do the presentation of one of those machines very soon. Our security services also receive more than $30 million. GRTS also the same, more than $30 million. All of these things went into these institutions to improve their capacity. And then Namiro Mumunedi, will life after the summit.
Okay, Honorable Bakari.
Yeah, let me just comment quick before Honorable Yena Al Haketi.
Okay.
Yalong, internal concern me minty, Mr. Fadera, you've done so well by, going out, securing these funds. So, very internal main concern me minty, to bring fund in nata alia distribute. So there was a mechanism, I'll said, the funds were used appropriately and we pay account for every penny because after the summit, there are so many allegations of corruption, mismanagement of the funds. And Mamo, you mentioned anything of that nature?
Okay. Thank you very much, Suleiman. That's a very good question. And I think it's an opportunity for us to also address it. In terms of the funds that were raised, in fact, the allegation of the corruption, look at where the quarters that it comes from. These are the same people, men sita, eko battle hard in highway to Dokula because it's the same people, men sita, bidding ko somito bekela ko ha somito kekele kodo be domale. So these are not new stuffs. But yalong Gambia nolu, coming Gambian for a more that we are hoping that we are going to fail for whatever reason. It only yalong, but we did a remarkable job, and to their surprise, we succeeded. So it is the same quarters menukana with these allegations, baseless, unfounded allegations. Ndolu coming just to give you an example of how these funds are being managed. The funds never physically make their way to the Gambia. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry about that. I had a call on my WhatsApp. So these funds never physically made their way to the Gambia. These funds, the way that they operate is we have these financiers agree to finance it. They commit funds to it. We select a supervisor that supervises the work of the contractor. After a point of time implementing the project, they issue an IPC, an interim payment certificate. And then if they are happy with the work and the quality, then they will write to the financiers and tell them, give them so and so percentage. That's how these things work. So Mukodo Namanang, it did not make its way to the Gambia for anybody to allege that the OIC or the government or any other person was there and misused it. There was nothing of that sort mentioned. So I would really appreciate it. The people that come up with these allegations, let them tell you, let them point to the evidences, let them point to the circumstances or the examples of corruption. You will not. Then you'll be more suited to respond more adequately. But I can tell you for free, as somebody may alonko, has been part of this process,
I think
whether it is
in
the
Japan,
infrastructure element of it
I
or the
wrote,
events planning
I
part of
picked,
it. Yeah.
I also picked this thing, for some of the guests were hosted in Senegal, so it cannot travel to the Gambia. And doing this BVIP motol ye hayale instead of K-Sang. So, Lapa je fana ye play and the mula for what has happened or mandate. Hello?
No, I'm on a line of frozen delay. I think it's got an incoming call. Incoming call, so I can think, But nonetheless, let's see how it goes in Fanala. Because the me and concern jam back, all I've seen a video me along ko Bankol me along OIC Mankeje in Bako Senegal. Well, they tap into different avenues. Me along ko Ibajala ko. Some of the ways is a benefit to them or to stay a more
I think Assis Bojang, he picked on that. Kabin Accord, our president was trying to mingle with the other head of states. Because the thing Jamai was walking around the head of state. So I think someone, Ayala Natalo so ako in this and he doesn't know Mulma long. He's walking around. But normally on the video, he for Muslim president. So shortly after that, in happening Saudi, you have a panel project was signed. So even though Mr. Fadireka for one mantara o ay sila mandate, but one people is sexual me along ko for I seen to go create no for the Gambia, but he
exactly
leader
my
in Amayus. So na leader ma among opportunity in ta. I think Asis was right in picking that up.
Yeah, in fact, sorry, just quickly, Dorong, Mr. Kamaranata, the Fenkwa Todu, the
Fadera.
Honorable Nanata back Dorong a chance diala, but it left a memfola. Yaje summits like this to attract the big heads, you have to have an aggressive diplomacy. Someone who goes out there, and even if need be, the president himself flying to some of these countries. Kafoiko, we are organizing this and we want you to come. You cannot rely only on your foreign minister. And this is why among the big heavyweights may attract you.
Not even the heavyweight. The OIC organization is made up of 57 head of states. So less than 7 head of states matter.
This is it. So this is what I am saying. I mean, I know Gambia have been.
Yes, Fali, you are in. Yeah, you are in.
Yes, but Fali, let me just say this. I want to extrapolate on what I was trying to, the point I was trying to make. We have 3 years in the making to get this, to get to this day. We should get everything right. And not, yes, you guys did very well in terms of the organization, but the turnout was really poor in terms of heads of states attending. Ndunte Amira, comment, we were not aggressive enough in pursuing the diplomatic side of it, where one, we could have had the president himself travel to some of these countries, have a one-on-one with the heads of state to get their commitment to come. The other thing is we can even hire other former diplomats. We have the likes of Blaise Diagne. We have other Gambians that are highly placed in the international community who has connections to some of those people. We can use them. So in Ntefe, that is a missed opportunity. Yes, they were all represented, but imagine if they were there in person, what would that look like? That is something left for Lamena Kodal. It's something that we should learn through. Okay, the OIC, Tonya, the organization again is good, but don't tell me, after all of this, and after giving NAWEC that 32 million, some people have to lose power to be able to provide adequate power supply to OIC. What would that look like for a Gambian who is struggling to make a living through power supply? Would that Gambian at that moment characterize this as a success?
Precisely.
Yeah,
These are the things, Mayor Lonko, I want us to be focusing on. The other thing, I'm going to come, or anytime you come on that, I'm going to come hard on you. You people are public officials. I don't feel comfortable with the language of people who are looking forward to this failing. No one wishes this to fail, and the entire country rallied behind you people. So the language of we got it successful despite other people waiting for us to fail is a non-starter. Let us be patriotic enough and know that we are providing a public service. Those who are skeptical have a reason and have a different perspective. They are not our enemy, and they are not rooting for our failure. The entire I'm going
Mr. Fadera,
and unless Mr. Fadera, you change that.
So I'm going to respond to Mr. Bojan first, or do I? Because I think
understand before you respond, Mr. Fadera. Before you respond, after doing you understand here, Molkadia Munyaming or Gamino for is not geared to your passing, but in Kanyino for geared to the system and in the leadership. So in laughter you will understand. So Kana CJ Yamirako Molbe attack and stuff like that. No. This is in laughter you will faham.
Yeah. No.
Yes,
Not
sorry.
totally.
Totally.
No. Uncle Bojang. Totally. I am a professional, and I am professional enough to know, this is not about me as a person. It's about the
Exactly.
country, and I am serving an office. We are not beyond or beneath public scrutiny and accountability. Well, I think, we are always here to be held to account. Definitely, until we encourage this, we see this as an opportunity to talk to people. Ka kujamal fanam bomole nyoro. Tumando bata dolbe je ka kodol fama ka med kodol muta maybe malone. So, but in terms of, ika patriotism memfo alayalo. Wale yentolu jamalu sindi jang hanibi alayalo. Trying to see how we can do. So membeje, but malafi kachai digress wato. But ila point nye memfo about the first one, what was it? The representation.
Yes.
So first of all, we our representation was 100% in terms of the membership of the OIC. We had more than almost 50 VVIPs and VIPs, and this includes presidents, vice presidents, prime ministers, deputy prime ministers, foreign ministers, etc. And foreign minister Minfananara, they were all heads of delegations representing their countries. Ntola Jeroro, that is the most important thing for us, that all the member countries came and they were fully represented, and that was very successful. In terms of the representation of the heads of state, to be honest with you, if you had asked us, we would have loved to have all the presidents come. In fact, that is what we were preparing for, in terms of accommodation and other logistics near Jibe, plans on mainland, even the vehicles that we purchase and all of those things. It was in anticipation of high level representation across the board. Obviously, we were not hoping all the presidents will come, because you don't get to have all the presidents at events like this, except for Saudi Menka Plenol Kinoma, but we were looking forward to good number of representation. So more based bari ite ya long ne ndefana ngalon ne ko moving presidents is not easy, especially in this volatile state that we are in. Most of the membership of the OIC, especially those big heavyweights, they are in a part of the region that is, a flashpoint. And right now, it's as volatile as it can be. So a lot of security considerations go into their travels. And unfortunately, Gambia is a third world country. Let us not kid ourselves. We have to be realistic sometimes. Until we are a small country with very, very, very meager resources. Ndolu, we are also a small country that was not tried and tested before in terms of events of this nature. So clearly, heads of states will naturally, unless and until we prove ourselves otherwise, they will have questions. So Ndolu, that is one thing that we also have to be realistic to ourselves too. Gambia is one of the poorest in the world. Our resources are extremely limited because these countries, they know it. They know very well what our state of affairs is. So
But I think you're trying to excuse, the government in this aspect,
number one. Number two,
because
the government also, in terms of mobilization,
Mr. Fadera,
I am
Mr.
aware
Fadera,
of the foreign minister.
Mr.
And
Fadera,
yes,
I think you're trying to excuse government failure because, to my understanding, OIC was organized looking into all that logistics for membership, all the security, ila housing, and ila travel for kana occasion increase. Wobe was part of the logistic, and funding was kind of mobilized for that. For CAFO, because we were not tried and tested, in hosting such kind of events, I think it's just a lame excuse, for that failure.
Okay, I think that's a fair observation. But in coming from explain Tonyala, all the logistics, the preparation was to make sure we are set, but that does not change the fact that we are still a small country that is struggling. And I'm not saying Kowale Atina Jamal Manna, but I'm saying that those considerations are real when countries sit down and look at what decisions they are going to make.
Mr. Kamara Natel de
our foreign affairs ministry did not also sit down. I am aware that the Minister of Foreign Affairs, he went out. He did a lot of charm offensive in the region, going out, meeting heads of state, meeting this Fenkolu, regional Fenkolu, trying to talk to them about a host of issues, including participation at the summit. So I think the most important thing for us here is this was an opportunity for us to show what we are made of as a country, and we have taken full advantage of that.
Yeah.
And the manna, they have seen what we can do. They have seen what we are capable of. In fact, that's what they tell us. We have seen the letter, the public letter that Iranian Mensafe. We have seen the letter from ECOWAS. And these people, in our private conversations with them, echo what they had seen on the ground. If they had known that, probably it would have they would have approached the summit differently. But it's just the unfortunate position we found ourselves as a small, not so endowed country. But hopefully, we sold ourselves well, and these people in the future, they will be good ambassadors of the Gambia.
Thank you. Honorable Bakari.
Hello, Mustafa.
Yeah, be kan wolon OIC ite be on the ground ite alone, atol be yin cool konole. So malong yalon falle kuma jamala fala kacha kono jang kula mimbe dending nyatu talla wala success depending on momo ya ika define nyameng. Bari malong ite la jero to OIC ite be nun jel. Kono to dia ba yeminje.
Baraka Mustafa. Sorry for nga break menge na internet connection woman strong bage. Nunga tra kuma jamal kana po.
Internet connection is always a problem for us. Ndol online streaming ke,
But kanam falli dundi de, he's gonna talk again. Adung is honorable Kamara la fenkole. So give Kamara.
Sorry about that one. Kongo ko yafa nyama ngal tra program wonyin kono le jamal fatang koma. Anunga duman din fana moje. Ya akata gambe manta benguti baake kanyim bengo me alon ko mata baake nyinan sango harjen dolle harje tala prana take ja amma andal kunni ngo ngamen kala mata je grant and loan agreement jamal na ran dolla time wol national assembly me alon ko ol nyanda dun nanyim bengo polo kun ka bo sila de daldo anim fen ko tangol me alon ko mata baake bengo to keno law kon. So wol ketan tol kundi ngol nyala jala andum konko diam lali after nyamen gambianol moment si mol beleta do ko la kaje ko nyin ayke because fen nyon tan wala andum ko ambe ko nyimbe nyamen bankol ben be ko Gambia Mustafa men yalan ko banku fen tan ben be ko Gambia ni nyim ben si fal kana modol kana lo yelo alfe men e fen so de ga fam mbal ma ko la nyin alsi soro lahi do soro alsi don toro lahi do soro par wato do ba ko le abake le prali al bulo la nyin be kam ba mol kanale kale ko mbal solal yalla momen ra ko solal wante tata me ya don rol fo sege la moy la do mande so ba ko la wato te bula mari no nteleol dol karam dal grant ñol fotale legislative for loan agreement ol gar kaje ko ñin do ko be la tay ñame adun jamaja man sakunda ya ja fana hamo ko mendi wala ñinde ko ngaka bete amoli ngey so ke bali ani nim batata tata soto je dol be je o ko mo do la ke kol handul ñal ba dol be je o gal ala la ñinol saying nimbe somito njube la kafoko for a successful talba wanda chegu talba wanto fonga bata ko wanto failure soto raji obe relative la bakala because ne ajube fenjama lel ketako karadol alhamdulillah safako ala tan do je karadol to nyala bata ko so go be ngombe ko nyibe dunya be jialo wo ko kole abakel so jamala darida men yala ngoy mamba say muna ke da fowul mamba non ngada say nyaati len la nyanda kelamen and so be anyande kelamende wala nyindi ko do gol men no dadda pro IC kaaje ko be banna nyama ko leara nyande ngambulo ka nyoma ngaaje ko wole ba anen ku do fana beje wala dew dati baake baawo nga gambia wol daji ko lolong the attitude is a very very big problem in this country nga men soto ngaw soto le membe ko state of art conference facilities be banko kanja sambe mun kala mbambe na nyama wo mun dala dew dati baake was in the bank or like a more many alongo. I'm very sorry to say, but Tonyam Kilmulti, the lesser fair attitude in Bango Mustafa Mobukafono. Gambiano Montano, Amala Kodo Najamaja Mamukam to send me Algakumar. And the conference facilities in Sao for Sanji Muanjama, one to Sanjita, one Mensiado. Time the Muneke Kajago minimum Mudala Kamil and Kajago near the program for because the culture of maintenance in Bango can walk a far. Najan masakunda la modol natara sanyi kilin karabo lelo etara nim maintenance buka sama mira buka keje suru mangko rol mangko so conference facility be mulya me alanga ko mata sa mun fere better laje na ba kala ko facility nyin kam men bonde ba o ngalon ko meeting ol dol ka jel adum malla lo be ka free mun be lande no la ka je ko samanin problem of findida se dogo ke no nda kunu sanji kilin ko man don time wan ni conference ma wanda sanji fula ko man don nana meeting so je nguma se da ka je ko toilet facility dol be je ka ko out of use wol la kabring ojo conference la ndara bag nguma ko conference center mi alanga lota maybe aske non tam but nda fe ko fati nyar lo wanda fendol ke je mi alanga manyana ka but men ngam mi rawlen nyil lota men fa on kam o man ke folo signin ma se da kanyin possible je wom ko la apol so will be mun nyata nyal de men yalango nyanta do ko la kaje ko facility ni wo mun tela cross dal de mun tela hakilo down le kaje ko abi maintain na nyam anin men tew anin do ko men do ko ma mun te siti nyanta ke la kaje ko wolet le OIC Mustafa was a learning point for us ngara nyine sinya folo di ka dunia de kumani ka ko me warlim ko nyimbe nya si be nya kana ko la so ninga filio so de wono ninga do so de me alonga aketa nyam la ko na be karan no ka ko janding ala ben harjela nyin dola nyin kamulon be improve la on things men yalan ko nyanta kala abara
edin baraba ke honorable so falle nimbe nyin kala muno afale ko la kul so nyin kul ko nolba
abaraka bake honorable kumo nyi nyara sahara beriara Mr. Jame ni sen sono demanding ala kumo jindi lado ngaje chance demanding membe den conference center la ni nka cool mara nyaming. I think based on cool men jen na korosilo futata cool mendo, that is definitely a concern worth having. Bari lafaka Allah hidiko aninka la manedi fanan ko jang conference center be ndo la secretariat lebulu ndo lel be jem alhamdulillah. And so far, so good. The center has been in operations for 4 years now. It was concluded in December 2019. January 2020. So when it beat low temanga because even though a lot of summit will come and Nico Basoron Nafanang, Equeka summit will batanu tumando bado is in a problem like you just leave it lying like that without using it. Bokonolen government nata foko alinga interim body kafunyoma OIC da nyatun ka kodo nga manage, and since then we've been doing extremely well. Nakacha kono nga fonu komando serun samo damma la $100 million nga wale make, and the year before that we made close to that. I think around 70 to 75 million nga make. So ikajele there is an upward trend in terms of the revenue generation, and we have not really even utilized the facility to its fullest extent because ben hakilo to kan somito fanando. But jiko bejeko saimente me alonko somito nyimbanda. Obviously, we will continue to do a great job ka expand umole na fasoreji. So Mr. Jame nina rete la jabiro nyinkaro membe dending somito e kolea kolu ngamenu taki nga kolea kolu men taki ja siata baki asiata baki even mba follow la men follow la wala mu nyim project ko la kodi comme honorable ya fa nyamin dol beje yen sole dol beje yen dondole bari fa so la talem bam fa duntu talem ñun beni sartol lel kana ay be manage la nyamin ko do nyimbe soto la nyamin din ko do fanan dundal bulu al ba manage la nyamin and dabe dol fon kono fon especially Saudi phone will they require you to even seek approval from them every step of the way ibe ko ku kela for tender lembang for contractual ni supervisor la selection number every process you have to send for no objection. So ikajele wo wen tardendi bake ayem batandi atina fon na kolu seta ko adabe kolu fanan kono men yem batandi even in terms of steel project la karol wala fon tarde ma jama fon samana na karola wala mu COVID-19 fanandi birin COVID-19 there was a global shutdown all over the world, and in Arabu du bankolu they were some of the last countries many alonko they reopened. And bear in mind, they require us to get no objection from them for every step of the way in project implementation. Our own national regulation requirements, because procurement also because you have to go through stuff, you have to advertise, you give a grace period, and in Kujamal Bay. So we'll be in you from the beginning. bring for the implementation for you know
talking about procurement Jani Tambi. Talking about procurement Jani Tambi ni VIP motor nga understand ko iko malum for close or for limited tender area woleke so they only allow 2 people wale Muhammad Dia and Saben Madi pour holy motor procure on behalf of the government mune wono niya ko ika advertise the ika tender follow on due process how okay just for 2 people for one due process later.
First of all, the tender for those vehicles, I do not have the competence to comment on that because Amanke Kondala office will oversee. We were not involved in any way. It was done at the level of the Ministry of Finance, and I think also Office of the President was also involved. I'm not sure, but I know it was the Ministry of Finance that took the lead in that. So I may not be able to speak authoritatively on what happened, what may not happen, how much the vehicles cost, or how much they don't cost, to be honest. But from what I understand, it was more than 2 companies. It was a competitive tender. So to be honest. But
so Motol Faith sign all Benyadile conference in Banta. So is it still Motol be on the finance bank who works for information? So Motol cool Belari Nyadile sign.
No, Gambia government Motolu Bay. There is a government vehicles controllers office, but the fate of the vehicles, from what I understand, the information minister was asked about this, and he said the government will sit down and decide on it. So I don't know what the government has decided, if they have, whether they are yet to do so. But it is still with the government. My guess is at the level of.
I'm going to offer unsolicited advice, if you don't mind. I think giving Mr. Honorable Bakari, is it Kamara?
Yes.
Yes, I learned about the lack of a maintenance culture. Musa Miracle, the best way to salvage these vehicles will be to hand them over to the OIC Secretariat, who is also responsible of managing the conference facility. What that does is it will enhance the running of the conference facility in terms of Ningali, another conference host. You can put those vehicles at the disposal of the arriving guests, even if it is at a cost. And probably the maintenance might be much more proper. To Mr. Kamara's point, it's a cause of concern. This lack of maintenance culture is a cause of concern. However, you have allayed our fears. Kodal, it's under you, under the Secretariat, Adung Aliba Kelale. Bari, public attitude, sometimes government can influence it. If you have a government that is showing a lack of concern for maintaining facilities, the public are going to continue. Government can influence public perception. So obviously that is another thing, Honorable Kamara, if you are a member of parliament, maybe these are the kind of things you need to take the government on, because attitudes are not going to change like that. These are habits that people are comfortable with. And at the start, la muntole, NPP le bela rally sotola, they want to host it at the conference, at the OIC center, bringing all sorts of people, allowing them to do whatever they do. By the time you realize, Aitinya.
So this
kind of attitude. So
great. Before you come in, largely problem women being banko kan konko ko ngafade nyame. And we are not going to limit ourselves to the OIC, because in the Gambia call for not facilities men be OIC, but banko be kaneng. This is one point in time. The National Assembly with the then Finance Minister came up with a proposal. Hello.
Mr. Cameron Sodoro. So you man start at all that, I man start MPP la, I man start this current government la. But the same attitude continue. I will give you an example. Ali alone mune na public transportation service father, political parties, political rallies, especially the ruling government. Anytime they have a rally, your public transport, they luas. What do? Singing, dancing on it, all along. So it's not just today. It's an attitude. And I'm not blaming this government for that. But what I am saying is, if that needs to change, if the public perception of public facilities has to change for the good, government must lead. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes,
if I may come in, Mr. Jame, Malam Fondelemba.
Go for it. Yeah, go on.
Okay. So yeah, I want to align myself with the sentiment that public infrastructure needs to be looked after, just like how the human being needs nourishment, needs to be looked after, regularly checked. New facilities will fanam, and the longer they stay, the more their value, their structural integrity, and all those things fanam katala. So they regularly need maintenance. At the level of the secretariat here, we are doing a great job at maintaining these facilities. We have a full facilities department. We have our own in-house plumbers, AC technicians, electricians, electronics engineering experts will be able to and where the need arises, if we need to outsource, we outsource and then make sure that the place is in a good order. For government having that confidence in us in the way that we've managed this place, they have now put the VVIP lounge at the airport in our care. Now we are going to be the one to be responsible for the facilities management and the running of the VVIP facilities. All of that to support the conferencing efforts and endeavors of the country. But I also want to quickly put on record that we've enjoyed a great deal of support from the government. Our board is chaired by the president himself, and all other board members are cabinet ministers. They've been extremely, extremely supportive of our ideas and the things that we want to do. Just to give an example, when we wanted to fence the conference center premises, there was a lot of noise about it, but the government was very steadfast. They believed in our goal at the time, and alhamdulillah, the conference facility is well protected in a very nice, befitting manner. Other things fanang kalafika menga fanang ika support le. Hopefully that culture would also be spread across the government, and then Molia understand when you are entrusted with public property, you have to be prudent in the way that you manage it. Yeah, but I share the sentiment that definitely public infrastructure needs to be looked at, especially fengol meni alon ko kodi jama bale dundaje into learning conference center. I think is about $50 million. So we're going to continue to do our best to make sure that it is well kept and used for the purpose that it is used for.
Yeah, for ila diamo kono ko kolea cool yeah for imam bang bari
yes.
Honorable Fenkeraje bari kolea cool kumara ya bambakela because
yes
kolea cool kasudo jela so wo ne ajen go for be o remedy la nyame in the future kana soto ko kono because dobi je atol maybe alkatara dogu kenne kam bari albuka fundi alla modo le buka fundi mol kay ni kacha anu banko dingol ni buka kacha dobi je speculation ning ngami mira ko la fo wala kasi ko kono so maybe atol fanan katara under pressure le ko la ku dol ningol long maybe dol fanan ngamil lon je so share with you fond.
Yes, no, I totally agree with you. Ngalan kacha kenyalem nka nyokuntu which is also okay pour kumole senyalem doron bari comme mbeme espen kanu nga kolea do men soto nung especially infrastructure karola womu waleti ni nata these financing regulations COVID-19 fanan nata embatandi and wo keta nung kolea ku bati bari ngamera fanan I don't know whether this is a kolea or not wala mu the lack of funds being readily available. I know as a small country we have to go out and fetch these things but ning atara mem fanan be sone yala nung akendama wala mu kodi ma hetara la re ko ale ko ala felente ala spend but I guess you know nga ala tentu bani la somito fon la karola ntol nga kole amem fanan soto je me yem batandi bake especially fon en preparation fanan affect wala mu government la processes ol ka kenyamen.
Yeah, well, government na process, you know, aka kenyameng ngalo no wol protocol la katara je kaiti shano la aning bengo wolo no woko itambele beri ngamira ay incoming call so ko renke ala line of elente a dropta but aka point min fo jang ndena bin kumara ya nyin kacha fam be kono to be fair Suleiman or Aziz, one thing it means a lot to me jang wala nyindiko because Senegal ye fere min to tap into different avenues pukaje ko, you know, banku ni aje ko banku bije mi alonko wolka mani senoleke they will tap into that avenue. Nim banku bije wole expertise to kurang la side they tap into those avenues. Inu wole kacha inu wole discuss. Now wol fana nyende kala kulle to mi alonko hana ni somit la kuma nyoma. So it should be something me alonko mo nyenda consider la, you know, because this is an opportunity, open opportunity. So your thought?
Yeah, I think Kumaya to give back because if Jenny Kumaya Kunyamin, you know, foreign minister in Atata Pindika Jamal ended. But for me, as a head of state, me it is a foreign minister command. Purwena, Marifara to my foreign minister, you know, entire audience Gilela. But in that as a head of state, obviously head of state, for me, yeah, nsi kachano ye kumol fonye. Isaje hanimam pleno ki kama. Comme aya fo saudi ka ke nyame bari ni nate wale ndiya mute so nge convent ko ni nata ni rete la ya be mul ma ko la tenmente mul fanan binala bari because foreign minister ni kata wala atina we had so many foreign ministers who can actually la banko represent because yagi nyame ko foreign minister la program wala so president mul manyan nakata so ndina president ngol mamfundi so kabing gan na fang anyanti engage like kilimo ay invite and will you see you know as call for a ndina fang inila banko agreement in like on trade or on agriculture or on health or on education isa de contractual sign for bankos yirwano nyame Urka for her silol damma, of course silol beteata, mota for la silol man betea because I can traffic easily, I can transportation is in delay for have business of an cash on and delay. But what damma is not good enough. So for na opportunity jama misde ntena jero to nya diata alaye. Anum fanan kukling ni comme accountability ni even though ako physical cash ni man bari yalon Jelna Molu is like Hani here dundi Ardana Kono. For ye female so they will ye mandina Nami. Hani Malaikol be siri. If you figure ye bandino asatara world mind. So now Dema understand you would 30 man for $32 million you will be will ye Kurangon in your Sony and the conference of Kono. And it was worse. Because mo jama ka complain mo wato ko e kara tude si man ko no soto o jobu kana so ko do be hintule ye mas mol saminte aduni tata e kel fagna ko hey jama e kafo e kurango usani ndio e buka cash power jo bukela bilojo but ordinary gambian no likana like $5,000 below dealer for you for you jo use nyadi le $5,000 e be jono o kurango e ke kurango buka na e ke below nya so I don't understand because this is like accountability mean a monkey and not the anyame for gali project will manage you and here the project will man bang bang. The is not because Kodonia man na imam manage school because me I manage school you put them on this for staff you target dealer for me another banner within 3 months or 6 months at least every month alika alijibe a process ni benyame so andu wo nyama isa monitor no ni alon ko de ha nyino bentel normally ikan kisi de ka moljube so be do ko kala nyanta kala nyame bari ne project go dila dronesi ibuke no ma ibuka fenke probably kicks back so soto dage so wala dinna ibuke monitor back
Aziz.
Yes, Mustafa Ntedal, comment whether it's a waste or not, mbewolo naning proper auditing keta. Na lonkodo jelle dunta jelle spenta dunta mune kono. Unfortunately, the funding and all the arrangements have been shrouded in some secrecy. So obviously, nta lonna barinka mem moisa e moluka fintine kafo. Is showing Gambia has lost a great opportunity, even in terms of resource mobilization. Just Kunung or Kununko, I was listening to the first, I think the first head of the OIC, Lamin Sane, who kind of came out to indicate arrangements menke when he was head, and even bring a step down, he was still helping. Some of those funding arrangements have never come, and of course, now understand ko coming fadera lembam for kamara mem for bank. Because sometimes countries pledge, bari ibukana na okay, but yes, why would I nintaranteni Mustafa lente convince no to help Gambia? All of a sudden, ma Mustafa agi. It's going to be difficult. Mbembulo mutalale. So these are some of the things. The government also was not aggressive enough, because just the fact that any more man agree does not mean you can still use them to achieve your goals. But these are some of the things. Gambia have a lot of diplomats who are working at the international level. We can use those people. The OIC Secretariat can fund a government trip to all the Middle Eastern countries, where the president will have one-on-one with those heads of states to get their commitment to come. Tonya Yela representative certainly. But imagine today, the Emir of Qatar, the King of Saudi, or the whatever of Dubai, Wuliena ye Gambia je, and the poverty yaje, even mem commitla, how that will impact them in terms of their mindset towards Gambia will be different from hearing this from their foreign minister. So Kasijan Kafoko, womu a success lady, obviously Ntolu the bang and men set for success is very low. I am very happy ko Mr. Fadera was so honest Kafoko. We are a poor country, Namana Nyinsifa, but I don't think it's even Namana Nyinke, because being Nimba Sumana as to success in terms of attendance. Tonya, we've not had anything like as big as this, but we've hosted the AU. Can we say the attendance is compared to AU? The attendance is similar to what we had in AU. So this is our capacity. But if AU is better than this, then obviously something is wrong. Something is obviously wrong. Sometimes was it Mr. Kamara or again Fadera who said it's a learning moment? Yes, it's a learning moment. But let us admit the shortcomings and not try to paint into kind of, oh, we did well, this. No, we did not. We were promised so much when these were coming. We missed out on a hotel that could have employed maybe 150 people. Is that not true?
Inimbara Aziz.
We've missed out on that. But we will for infrastructure better. And I think I want to give them credit, but I will hold that credit until we do a proper audit. Nalun jelle dunta wo infrastructure kono jelle ye jelle boro wala jelle receive for this infrastructure jelle dundi, and what's the outcome? Adu Mr. Jeye Kufajang is very important. Niaje wati government is not frowning on a contractor for not doing their good job. It's a sila ko kudo le bad from. Here, do cool mambang, but we still have the government coming out to defend the contractors. Nyewoje wati duron silang. This
Makes
is
sense. All right, Baraka. Honorable.
Yeah, Mustafa Baraka bag. Konko diam lali ya fanyama yalo nga kukilim bejang ga chere ga miangko nyande hatlot lo to bakel. Nim politiko nada nga politiko ga bar nim bangu ko nada nga bangu ko. The OIC issue manke political ko di banko bela ko irrespective of your party affiliation. So nana dam bela nyanda kavla nyom.
Bari valli afala diamo kono ko modol bije malom fo mutelende diamo molle bije minni alonko ya fo kene bato ko nyin iba jalal ko mse jibe ajida fel malom fo mu kuso torne de ba itala jero
yalo ya Mustafa ante ka jogo wol mu kallan na ko molle adu hannar man wolbe keri ngamra nyanta nyaka kanu ni OIC keta gambe ka fel tale nyanta mengele makeno o manke president baroda mala maloro o mun tol bela malole because president baro kan tol represent tol le carte of right tarja nin kon tol wala majority so kumol dol wol manke kudme alon go ndela ta wala gambia no selo asiso kongo alama e fail o be kala disappointment balete yo bar me keren kongo ngafata nyame because ngajele OIC lungo mol lora men ya fo fanan lora kadi am ga mol be ker na men ya longa amram be fel bar man fel no that's not a moment pour ka mesos ke fon fel tala ka meso fon fel tala fon man fel o man ko wato hanat man o be kering nin lu ndam le be ga ser o man ko wato ndole nan na ka to ke don do go ka nyam bari gambia jang madam isi bete ya nyawara de la ideas bete ya nyawara karanda nyawara ne masa ko ndam be sir ni na da googling whatever ideas you offer they will not take it again. The first impression wando nyada folol menu nada nendo ko dede o nyada folol ko kuma ya baga mbe amwele Mr. Sane the former OIC la CEO ni I revelation on menu ke so where o kaitan da ko at one point in time menu nyanda soto nyanda kala menu bul pour kanyen dogo be on finance il lafta hakil fula sot la baga ne ko monyen ko gozi nyada folol menu je wande nyada folol menu je e man na o je ko la ban la so o kam ne min korib nyun be bending korib nyun be kukilemba fa ko eta la pronga na ko dolu ñun so gambian ko ñanto bola ñoto le baake politico honorable kamala ka di am UDP ngol in kam fo hanna bango na fal they don't listen to it nga example fa jande Mustafa ndol bora jandar jama ko auto topic ko kon bar nga diamul menuke ndole menu fo jenat man masa ko nabla tol non to mino binte déportation ko bar ndela nga fon seda nga fon dara radio station nga pari bakal lamoy because men nyanda pour kala mo men nyanda ko stay tay ka fala ko na da particular annun kam men fonka banko ko so ko ma ta bakal
na da particular amanka ko timi alonko is an immaturity nyota bari falle fela mun don falle afonye mena ba caring do you think something for fenne alla ni preparation on link ko be kono you think for mama fembe jela ale men so wrong ban don't you think you got something wrong? I found also wrong.
Abaraka coming mbafo kanu nyaming an event of this magnitude ndafono lako we got everything right. One of the things may mol batandi wala mu the difficulty that we had with the government laboratory system is not as fast as we would have liked. And at nalafon for na budgetolu approve the time moment na foi ko kodo fere ngala spend atran nda kono bake fa wayat na fon la fakku jamal keno la mol dol ke ko laftala nyam so definitely that was a challenge
wo fannala janni be tenden la ibe mena fola no mansa kunna wo fannal pour banko dingol yalon ko falliñol bela do ko ke kan ise mena fono mansa kunna wo fannal
no yimbe nyamen tolu amanke ko I'm trying to extricate the secretariat and apportioning the blame elsewhere. La kedela ko system obe design de nyamen nem because ni ajibe loke ndose sura kodola nu nyama there are systems in place that you get money and it has to go through the National Assembly. It has to be part of government la
this is a big summit me alonko na fam ning Cairo min biya wartala woto ning mansa kunda wala mo bije min ke kaleti wodi wo fana nyanda wolon na ning wonde mbambulo chod la tala dem falli fo
anka mbewole esfen ka mantra fo kan ko coming necessarily mole kaleta nyaro pour kan tardendi or something. It's just the way that the government system is structured and our financial management system. tolu se korondo nyama ni mansa kunda fulita bi ye kuro lambulu without going through due process wadi amu fana mamira mbo mbo do no ta do laja. So that was a challenge, to be honest. So they had to go through the National Assembly. They had to, because one misconception from Alafaka mentioned, the financing for this event planning of the summit, it was entirely done by the Gambia government. Amanke ko we OIC FND mola nga dol mo ko OIC ko OIC ko le di mola. No, there was nothing that came from the OIC. There was also nothing in terms of the financing and sponsoring the events planning that came from other bilateral countries or avenues. So Gambia government dole out the money, and in order to do that, they had to base it on some legitimate, lawful grounds by going to the National Assembly, making a case for it, and in Kujamal. So fana move fene di melonko I am affect back in terms of na planning to.
Okay.
And in
Real
fact,
Mfali ke me chodiro ke me dulamin chodi kanjam because la fanyin culture fenkela biring ndefanam benum Gambia nena nga doko ke dulal dole bari coming this jero wala nyin culture of like ning kari tijang minister tijang at a sign la permanent secretary tijang min ka sign at tijang malum fo la fo le jibela jam fo le katinna ko dol nyanta kela awato la ibuka ke awato la puka fo ko man sakunda la doko bunnaten. Well, manso kundala dogu bundala bijela bini yalan ko uku mami mbako nying moro puru mo na balea wala sasa wala weta lopitan comme nyin tarde ma sifal o attitude lafta puru wala falling ay long munatin na wol sifal kake atul munaketa lakale ko de goy kamin foten due process le joy bengo to nyalo comme ni afa kodola abuka fundi bibilo you have to follow the protocol process nying eta ayna jang namro jang kariya sign ka bo bureaucracy wo kumi mbako nying mamira nintol be nga nyina ko malo ngalon ko abe kairo nin na famin fela nang mamira wo nyanta kila ma nyanta tarla woto mfalli so jien la fay mako e jela ko ninye
no coming explain wrong o ku kilingolem coming explain na system wala be lari wo nyama president se lafi as a korondo nyama the law officer lafi se korondo nyama finance minister se lafi as a korondo nyama honorable bejang as a ken sedodi silo lel beje sato le ni la faka Gambia taxpayers or la kodo use, you have to be able to pass through the due processes and you have to justify it. You have to make a strong case for it.
It should not take that long for
Mustafa, let me come in. But left from experience, what laro? Sorry for interrupting. Yalam niajenga budget the resources are scarce. Plan and gafalanga budget ngin dunyu. So sometimes ning approval get a National Assembly already. The government for cash allocation often another process led. Revenue performance for we have a tax-based economy. So what the battle separate prale expenditure alle spending but nala preparation of data finance the alla cash allocation mampare. So usually mfalika kodon nyemfaren ngal no bekala sulo bekala kodome na besiala baga. So what the battle sala parendo kale alla cash allocation oteje because in the kale places when I was in the National Assembly Ministry of Health sometimes that are collateral ikan tolle command the health committee banyak go alim go lafta borol sana lafta nyingal but ministry or lafta nyingal even the base consumer goods are not in the hospital committee saying finance contact after go look alfero hanal be order payments no le cancel alfero ko aleka allocation no isaje saying spending ken. So I'm so akada ba bekelo area ning already approval of the ning cash allocation no teje because kodole bukata je wado
coming back on what such measures need to be in place for all CFAs all override for.
Yeah, contingency kasodole because akolara nyanya government consolidated revenue kodo kataro la dimi akolara nyanya kodo manyanda follow. About priorities no lel kana nata da fat for revenue performance man bedeano. Alga priorities no lel ning kodo na ning kuma da fat
I would like to think this is a priority as well, I would like to think.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly so. So,
when it comes to follow up, and then you're a bit laid back, you don't think you're a little bit laid back?
No. I don't think it's a kind of being laid back or something. membe je don comme ngamen foi ñing kul fanam be ñame ntolla board, just like I said, the finance minister sits on the board, the foreign minister sits there, the president, the vice president, they all participate in the board, so they know no matter how urgent do se koronto nyanya koku ba kunna to la yalo ne but comme ngamen fana explain ni misal yale explain ning comme ngamen fo ka call override ka call ke nin dol ngo ke b people will not see the need for that. Be multi sila ya foko. There was a need for the government to move fast or for the country to move fast. Al nga nyinge. Be muna fola wala muko ni aje due process saung ila faka ka ko le be tapala ya kangol le lala.
No, but and there's a body called audit. Minka woke. Minnialo ninga tonale wolake. Audit would come. Would do that. Wolbal audit la ya jibe fo tonya. Minketa wole for that. But it can all mean for jam. President of BJ, finance minister BJ, BJ. Wolfanga yina kumalo. Wolfanambe dena ka wonyama. What are saying? Where do we stand?
No. Ngame explain here. Ngame explain. Wole muko. There was due process and okay,
so can I come in?
More importantly, I don't think that should be
quickly
no. Jump in demanding
I just cited that as one of the things we would have loved to be improved upon, but it was not kind of like a major issue. It is something that kind of brought a setback, but under the circumstance, we were able to do what we could. You know, example do fanandila. For example, by the time the money was available to us, you know, the procurement system or benyaming, you know, if we had to go through everything ko abelari nyaming, then but nonetheless, we had to. So we do everything in line with the regulations and in the advice of the National Procurement Authority. And they were also very supportive, supporting us with all the requirements and approval we need.
Can I jump in here?
Yes, of course.
Yes, I think Lafta to do you a favor. For about OIC organization atolea fund. Left a breakdown because we want to understand to organize this OIC. So left a comment ye breakdown ke separation ke between ye men dialla for the OIC wotata muntole aning itela foko ali Gambia government le OIC la organization o nying fund exclusively. What aspect of the organization leti? Because I think one minister Silla said it, but people did not believe it. But amongst clarity le soto in terms of what aspect of the funding was OIC and what aspect of the funding was Gambia government local funds. When you come to Alkamemfo in terms of this procurement and the delays, I agree with you. Sometimes bureaucracy, which is obviously necessary, can also work against speedy implementation. So I quite understand that. But it left a young clear more because it's to your benefit. So that's some alien beta le fokabang alkanal ka foko ha to lenim fund. Ngalon ko dal there are differences in terms of funds and what they were meant for.
Very well. Elo nyin karo kumara bagi. Bari ni ajibe fana birimba fokang nko when it comes to the events planning of the summit, the events planning bit.
So you do volunteer manding koye.
Wale mu come somito nyin na parendiroto.
So domoro
kabo kadati ning motolula domoro fengol lembang for security la jorangol sulata menna jiarte sulata menna asobil men yalon ko na nga wolle uniformol nga menu sam security services solie na dokulalu event nalu wol fanay menu dum na janka pend you know kajan senandi ka logistics sol da memu tentoldi men yalon ko nga kodolu ke wollel kono menu ning conference center fo manke because mol jamal fana mam menje malam fo television la fintiro futa do but we had a lot of events here on the ground also menta rekanya ngamra for tent lulu o woro nga food court soto wo kono me alon ko mo keme konondo wollel sitano kono ka domoro keje nga media center fanan soto media center me alon ko journalist wol men be Gambia ni men batnan tuba banko kan jele mun wol Dakar dulati ni sulata kela doko ke jang anin ko dol men be den ni wala nata mum fanan soto fanan ko ngat salidula fanan soto ka fadamento ko a prayer grounds. We also had that here at the conference center nga dula soto waiting lounge for the drivers, for the protocol officers, a medical center, you know, so e kajele ngol be soto le tentolu kawol finance joining kuran ko men be dunda wo kodol be kata nyim furniture nga men fanan sang même mu nyi abul nyi malti mole menuje sira nyi malu mole menje kapitolu moli e menje flagolu banderolu moli e menje printalu nin kaytolu kotangol men yalon ko summit kelal di muna fa walela ila jorangol ila bagol ila accreditation system ñu lele mu fangolu di men yalon ko ani fu mal men yalon ko
so wol yal cost jellella that entire hosting wol yal cost jellella wo tata jellella wo yal cost jellella
o haymaroto the last time nga check atadale fasudi ada dalaso million kemelula mendunda kunda, you know, so it was everything including because we also had to one of the things that we also had to do was to have a VSAT internet backup, a satellite powered internet backup system in place pro comme ni misal fe na internet provider memu national provider Gamtel. If we had issues can make sure all those things are in place. Even power and energy, fuel link will be we had to make sure we had multiple backup plans for them. Because coming for Gambia for Wafi. So it la villa pour Gambia Wafi as a conference destination, more be meeting wala kurama bita kan wara internet or is poor. So that is why we had to make sure we have all these contingencies and in Kujamal chaje ko nyimbe laku. So na bota nying somito la funding nyin la dépensiro ko la dépensir kotangol men yalon ko ku ke ñoo kotangolu anin demar ñolu nin doku ñoo kotangol lele dépensol wala mu project ko la ko di infrastructure projects nga wolle soto kabo ina banko dolu bulmen bako Saudi kata OIC ku ke ñolu nin kafo di ngodolu men bako Islamic Development Bank Kuwaiti Foni Abu Dhabi bar minister fa ñame malo interview ci be bari comme kame esena fa ñama be wala ñama ni na somito dépense ko o be o pota man sakundala bul.
Okay. Kumada, what do that about and Kumada?
Kala quickly, you talk about drivers only will see and on Nataji on the internet drive all the complaint can kako email kodojo become firing. So for a better preparation in la funding bank for
Driver la ko kete nyaming it was just unfortunate wrong manta be mbaliale fa ko nata wara findita lata kene bato nyama so men keta nyin driver lu maybe mba follow la même fond la KJ, you know, because also the success of the summit nta fono la bi nga tara driver fana melo lamro bari ntela miroro e koronto tale because somito banta tenel lungo fo talata lungo arabo itol natan to la office inata je in fact committee member responsible link driver la ko la même transportation committee wala liye commandi pour kana ka fo ko ala para ka somito bantale laftale kal jayi kal tendu so wo konole mo dol na reko ko na jodu nyaadi lem almanso naka moljo janintol balo na munebe kering ye chocho commandi ye televisionol ning kibar kaytol commandi ka complain bari amanke problem di mo ma fo ko ete jola in fact janin ni driver be kudu na nyobul nga engagement letter la dila engagement letter nga meita ni je wala mu ko mbe use la def tilitang and wo tilitang fa man kumfa tilise njangole mun don driver na re chocho commandi so and then you know as you know government la Kenya la joro Kenya lo processol nin ko fananka sulo demanding but even without giving us the chance to explain that they went out and then they started talking to the press making it look
Tribal cola fumo ko to kensangol bijela min ya lon ko ali ul fanang involved al yanda ke jobam tribal cola
wol siata fango akata ko comme driver le koronto ka findi bari
ko faranda nga wodi amo demande moyle individual ka fa ko OIC manson kanjo
Nka wala explain driver kola protocol official bejele many alonko they all come from the state institutions and the state setup. One thing that I also want to point out, the drivers were not privately hired. These are all already government employed drivers that we took from government agencies. So yalo ninko belari wenyama.
But
We
Mfalli,
cannot
why would
give
you do that?
another
Muna na
whole
albo
new
kela. Mfalli, jambala fle mako jando. Muna na albo kela. Driver Kensan will be minni alonko. Also will fanantano gambe di wale ki jalmo ulta alka gamanza kundala driver ulta. Why? Muna na le okay?
Yeah. So may yembula wakewala kudantanem. Number one, these are professionally trained drivers that are in the system. You would expect that they would understand the requirements of driving VVIPs and MVIP. You also don't want Kamulisika randomly in the street and then just
No, but you
associate
train
them.
them. Yalo nyimko, I made a bit in preparation of bakering. What to could be part of the preparation plans. Minne along I'll say, pro ale recruit for.
Yeah. But in coming in the point of
Mr. Fadera, near for government drivers all. So these are people employed by the government, and the government they joke. So munatina al tejo when government they on government salary tejo munatina al beta like tejo because alieta when they were on duty or alieta when they were on holiday
Yes.
or because
Yeah,
alienta je senandila.
You could have given opportunity to others.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jeng. But before I come to that, I think to just clarify, Mr. Jamaica Memfo, the reason why we went for government drivers, coming explain, important guests, VIPs, VVIPs. So you need somebody, they have the training, they have the capacity, and they have the orientation to be around VVIP and VIPs of this nature. And it was our assessment at the time that government driver, they are best suited for that role. In fact, in addition to government driver,
I'm sorry. Niowofo, Hansaing Mantara Kanjabi, Niofo, Ngoleko, for Ali Wol Kenyamendeng, alter recruitment process trajime ala funga recruit, purin nafa, I janjang, I funti model kamim mankin, because Wolfanang, jan false vet. Kafoko nying nga recruitment kele pour gambe dingol faransa nafa so reje ma fa ana sanan kamim fo because ya fo le ko man sa Allah ta wallale ali lonne e qualified tele e nying kol kele ya kele par pour nemo nying kono e fano e fundi modol fananka you should have create that sort of a venue or opportunity pour modol mi yalon ko manye sifake parce que no opportunity wol fana nyase la nying ko sifa kono e nafa fo
hanga mem explain dia lega mem fanam fo mambala wala that is also another option bari wo fanam manto la driver ta ama kasiyandi ko mu cleanadi ku fula nyong fanam mumenti wala muko comme en kame explain these are VIPs comme en kame fo e fanam ngam fanam fanum commando OIC la ko be tembo mento there is a lot of security considerations that go into OIC la koku especially sakoye nyaton ko bendi ko membo ko nyong so nibo nyong kusifa fanan kono ike hakilo to make sure that ela security vulnerabilities will yetala as much as possible. These government drivers are in the system. We are familiar with them even based on still the security consideration. Now VIP and VVIP heads of delegation we just did not allow any random person to drive them. They were it was security officers, drivers from security services. People many along with security backgrounds, so they are security conscious. Assigned to heads of delegation. Because security is paramount importance. So to come to Mr. General Jabiroro, membe dending muna atin ngejo. Me atin ngejo, amanke mbole fonction kan joro nyi manke ko coming, it's a salary. Because already they are in employment of the government. Bari, ibajela ko somito Kenya keta nyaming, it requires a lot of unusual work hours. Sutaba borindo lemu, ani wati moto borindo, airport to kata hotel to kabo hotel kata conference center. So it is usually out of the normal work hours. In fact, it involves more hours in some driver like cases. But at the same time also, it's a special assignment. So ninko belari wanyama, foise amari compensate where available. And in our case, we managed to have a compensation for them. And what we even promised to pay them was an honorarium. And then already for Jole, alhamdulillah, we gave 8,000 to each one of them, 350 drivers. So ikaje control nin drive wala dealing kono, we had a lot of goodwill. Konote dia ben na koto nunje bake because wo drive nga menuta 350 of them nge be train 3 days of training, both practical and theory. And each time that they come for training, each one of them was given 500 as transport refund. Wokola fanang nge kontan ninke siman ninke dasa mane throughout the summit. Nga suit fanan sang nyin dendiko do kuran dendikolu nga sutolu sang momo sut fula anin dendika saba nga wale sika nga label. Manda wo fanana, we did a medical screening for all these drivers. You know, mental health, sight and hearing, and in fitness. And what screening be ni kanala nka paso fananta nga label. So ikaje control in driver la koto nga konote dia bala sambe la karola moma ke pour ka mo batandi ke tajirinde bari eto lunata koronto le entela crossrodo janning hani tiltama famo be banna ni d'accordamenna finta dang dia mo ke bar alhamdulillah
Travel kola mo ko kenso ol minni alon ko alinyanta kejo ali ol jole ba
dole abe chokanne bari amang ide man jofolo, it's a process nga event ronald fanan jole mol men yalan ko wollel benum na food court anin kam mako ka domorol saf dulaldo bar wol fomu student ol de karandingol lel mudu be doko ngol bondi Gambia Tourism and Hospitality Institute le ka faje GTHI ni wollel yo ila student ol nga wollel use ani YMCA I think and another organization, each one of them I think 160 of them thereabout nga 5,000 lesika nga dila momo merikaji wol fana ye bala firingo manya dole fana nke na jang, you know, nga 5,000 dealer for just 5 to 6 days of work. They came here and then they started insulting our staff. Okay, video. They also wanted to do the same scenario. Drive control is not enough. And these are students that we thought participating in this process would have empowered them with practical knowledge I expose. But definitely it was much to be desired, to be honest. But just Kela Quicksono Jabidorom, we paid them, all of them, and we are also going to pay the protocol officers that participated and other volunteers that were part of the process.
Inimbara, watu tata, watu bande faram
yalong ntinga minjenin koto wolem ko yalong ku communication coming for any information more quality. So you see it should be a learning process for us, for you and them. Leaving in a contract, I know 5,000 for 5 days is good enough. Yeah, di mola, especially student. But in me, more tala in Nanta Castle and Delako. Okay, if you don't go let's say for 10 days, and in 10 days, Konona Banda Bejo like a Lulola. Naatara will agree to all documents and come here for letter of Malonyadi, you will do that. So one level kela banding quality. It's just sama will temurula na kanafo alimildin na wodo yatale. Because already before you do kumase alni agree to al clear. So maybe wole manke wolatin na inata ita wolfo. But in natara woketa nung then al bolotale. And fulanjang fanang ngamin is like generally in Tinaman Sakunda abuko imang hani media houses all because kujama begin take like every ministry I information officer soto. So every department in yanda information soto la miya lonko alla duko wo mario la nyanta putala e funtunya media houses all la asin ani wuli diam so that bankula dingol isa kala muta ko nyunno bekeri. Let's say OIC jamia na funte non ala afoni okay side ni VIP motol nkata sanne o ya finance le so gambianol balon na so ibadila rumoto funte no la because the man ka before wuli na eko haye ni motol hayale o luntamol kanale bari ebe sabita dula kari min kari because security because today I was aware security security officer tale if train on this VIP protection. So whole day ketale and information on man dengang. So ni information on today obviously for ye in assumption okay and wole ka room on that ye ho speculate ye la biamol mesengole fulti. So sign conference ni banda ndi jikita ko alnyanta funti lano aliafa okay sai motol fele moto nangam lem na ñinu motol yu sangi pareta ngadi mansakunda la so mansakunda le nyanta decision o megla bari mun kal noma kal ñinin ka kal noma o ka molko okay sa nga ñinu le ko do ni nga ñin ko di nangam le race and nga ñin ko di nangam le spend on this and that so auditing ni misaje ni will not already ali information or the mall so you are kind of those staff come here along they will be speculated and they will almost spread that because already all the information you provide is there, for public consumption. So because one may book a mansa kunda, and no understand money or no.
All right, so thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jeng Abaraka. Just pour que la kuninka rojabi, ye kuma Jamal for that I agree with. There is so much to learn coming up in Yaming about this summit and for something that we can use in the future. But coming in terms of the information dissemination, I would like to believe and think OIC is very, very, very communicative. More many along with Gambia Jang OIC la ko kalamata. We've been very open and transparent and nunca finti la to engage with the public. Even if you remember about the post-summit engagement, we have done that. We have done a press conference and in summito banda to moment when big tema almost every 2-3 days, either me or my CEO will be on the media trying to explain, trying to clarify, especially Gambia be mentioned la nyinkono. Mensiara Gambia, wolemu people that just sit for the sake of sitting and talking, without doing their necessary research. Instead of Google, you search about something, and they just sit down. And in most cases, people do it just because I'm not saying on this platform. Obviously not. All of you are very much well informed. But I'm saying the general nature of our discussion, Gambia, the loudest people, they don't do basic research to inform themselves. But in Toli, can you remember about the fate of the vehicles? You can remember thing about I don't know, you mentioned something else. All of these things we've been talking about, even been in Summit during a press conference. We invited the whole media to come. My CEO was there, the foreign minister was there, the information minister was there, I was there. So they all came, we had an interface, we discussed at length about how the summit went, the logistical arrangements we have in place, the number of guests that came, the fate of the vehicles, and in Kujamal. And it was live on TV. So Aketela Kudrom, Gambia Venyamendrom, Molel Buka research, but all of these things are public information, most definitely.
Honorable Kamara, your final thoughts. What Tata?
Finally, Kongo Mustafa, Suleimani Memphol left all about Laba, appeal can fally. Yalam the Bango can Congo Yam, Mola Londosia, but because Ikakumol Dolmoy. What do we income from Mole Honey Mankara, but Nifsi of the Sanji Doro, Nimo Mutona, Yantalayal, Molka Sijanega, fabrication of people. So Prato Lessenea, Bangudingo Fan Kalamata. Alpero ke ning full be bodala because abe mail album but a grace piron and the bill ala de parlo kajo kale expenditure mon bege ka ke sabenyoka ka jama bonna kalama kuma. I know some parliamentarians who write parliamentary question ka minister of finance meaning ka ni kodo but not all fanayo obere ala about from tankan la anu mol sa kalama. Model kasile doron you will for the sake of blaming or you will doron you name memo mole no le kara kongo nene men kada ba ko wadu ka balamba ka nyobu afo e fodol kala aitan ni nako ikala aitan mo ko londo so don ko hani won membe keri ngam kada nyanya fo wala kuma so kamol bonni kala ma men spenda so mi don ne sa de dia mol min beta la bakel anem fula nyang men fanande mo to fanam na fiade ba jamol tilimbale ara ba do gol men be ke ka nga follow ke ka do gol ñu ko complete anim fanam facility men be silol kan ibe tanga an nga drive all gele silo ñu jampade fel why silo ñu men jampade black bat ha den way kata ko funa aka jampe be saja mo da ay jara na mo do sel concrete silo ka bo silo la ñu ka do la kata in the process ikaje lampu polo me ala nga clean shata $10,000 is the I kate I budget so ngara lwa kendo nyanta lalo ko nan men ango momo yo ma you pay instant and kana da mo joro da man ning webe je yeso speni kana mo robor ne banko kan fo waro because adimi da bakele mo la ko do da fengol men ko na jurol ta ma ko rol gera mo kilim me ango mo mala bod na da ma na facility na from experience ma jele mo rol fo na talo liam da siloga mo go ma nyalo o dimi da bak
Anybody, Honorable Bakari Kamara. Mamin Kila Science, as is your final thoughts. In summary, I come in for jam consequences and the Kuro and the Lara can how Mutul from Bay, you know. As is your final thoughts.
Hana follow the wrong Fali Fadera Tentu for having the courage to come out. Comme Jen Mindiamu la côté ngoli même for adungajo ko recognize la motivation manque coming to score a point, but to raise concerns, genuine concerns, and where possible make recommendations.
Wow.
Contanta bake kaje ko mfali fadera so maturity in terms of ka famaji, but also recognizing some of the shortcomings. Womu huge courage leti adumba encourage la wala. Honorable Kamara Fanambe Tentulambe Jaila ila concerns, ndefana na major concerns lemu. But as regards the sustenance of the roading, I think that is beyond OIC. That should be the National Roads Authority in collaboration with other agencies like the police to come up with a strategy. Coming yemem for fana Mbeme recommend la dorong to OIC wole mnyintiko niaje some of the communication fana moluma moy completely ngaji kiko you guys focus most of Allah media relations with certain media and not countrywide. But imagine if this was spread in all the medium, because nteka OIC moy on coffee time most of the time. And most of the time, the language that is being used there is probably English to a large extent. Why can't we extend it to community radios? Gunjure community radio, certainly. Brikama have this member caring and others. But in Ajeko, a national issue as important as this one, OIC choose to do business with a certain media. And of course, I mean, coffee time is very popular. But look at Jimal Leke Munafangato. Maybe I'm wrong because I am outside of the country. But Nteka OIC Moi Dauda, how to call it, at West Coast Radio Damani.
All right, thank you. Aziza Baraka, thanks. Saul, your final thoughts.
Thank you. Mr. Jame,
Yeah.
I don't know whether I can quickly come in. I just wanted to say, we in our line of work, we don't look at any radio station and segregate. Mr. Bojanka radio station omen bevo. Beyond coffee time, until we were working with Pamodo and member caring, I went to Pamodo's platform multiple times and interview with him in the run up to the summit. I think sometimes he would call me and I would respond. Kerfatu, Fatu Network, even Watson Gambia, and all the community radio stations that are in the country, we work with them, all of them. There is a network of community radio stations. We contracted them, we financed them, we gave them our artwork, Nimol Day, platforms in the Gambia, TikTok, all the media houses, we had some form of relationship with them, and we don't look at whether or not they are perceived to be with the government or not. And all our interest is to make sure our message is out there. And our policy has been that this is a national event. It requires the participation of all and sundry. And that is what we've been working by. All the media houses, Mobe Kyolem, we work with everybody just to make sure that the message is out there, Mobe Akalamata. So Ndolu, we don't really work like that. We don't segregate, we don't discriminate. All our decisions are informed by strategic considerations, and our strategic communication goal going into this was to make sure our message is spread as wide as possible, and that's what we did.
Okay.
And me falli Tentulamba Jela and Honorable Kamara Tentulamba Jela Peru Jela Watu Kana. I appreciate for local media houses all alka contact. But jama, the diaspora and social media houses all albuka contact because I go program a media house like until the time Sky Power. So until we are political, until any political party claims support. So it's a neutral house. So Munatin al bukan diaspora media platform will consult because them being Jamal in the diaspora, they listen to these platforms. Then Minibesu. So it comes through platform only when there is an interview of a prominent citizen or a public official. But in Jama, they connect to these diaspora platforms. Killer information sort of from these people. So I think I'll tell you more isolate or I'll will consider as part of the local media houses at home. And the government official, the other thing, mainly invite minister Lembang, permanent secretary Lembang, director Lembang. They don't turn up. They would always give you excuses. You can't body this media houses so because until Buka Moni, each of us have a different political alignment, and we can write social media platforms all. But here, when we come here, it's a very neutral ground.
Very neutral.
Yeah.
Yes, Vali Jeja, I love the Jeja.
So that you can spread your messages.
Yes. No. Coming, coming up for the room. Whether or not media has perceived one way or the other, definitely plays very little consideration. Coming, the landscape of our media outlets, especially the online landscape, is very rich. And as you know, there are budgetary implications to all of these things. So maybe we were not able to stretch ourselves as much as we would have liked. But definitely, these considerations will be taken on board going forward. If we have the need to come out, we will also endeavor to make sure we are as inclusive as possible. I was also on another similar platform, like For the People and By the People, something like that. Wolfanang, they raised the same concern, but coming up for drone, it is not out of malice or anything. Maybe drone sometimes coming up for budgetary consideration and a whole lot of stuff. But going forward in the future, we would see how we can, expand. And personally, also, I will also become your advocate, because personally, I kind of engage in government committee events, Jamal Beji, as media support or advisor, so I will also try my best to make sure that, we advocate as much as possible. Definitely,
All right.
hopefully,
Okay,
inshallah.
on record, yeah, for young. So we would we will keep this. All right. On that note, ita fango beten to nambeje la bake ngamera kera kitari mi alonko damale nyo kono to dia janne and then cool for the jammi alonko mbesa fen karano jele. Your final thoughts be na kacha kunoto fali.
No, focal jayi kal tendu, and then kalamilal fanam be jayi ke tendu. Akerenya kontano ni sewori bi kakafu almajang. I think this is very welcome and it's very encouraging. Nim kul keta bankola ko bebe den menna me mbe sula ngasi nga kacha. Nyinin karul fol sesoto jabirul fanam seke as government official. So I'm happy to be here, to be honest. And thanks for having me. And I'm, Lamilal fanam bebe jaila, mbe Mr. Jeng jaila ka tendu, and Mr. Bojang, Honorable Kamara Nyolo, Anita Kundingo fana. I think it was a very fruitful, candid conversation. And my view is eventually the public will be the ultimate winner, because ni mol man kachay baka nyo faham, and kondanda baga katara jambi alayano.
Inimbarabake, much obliged. Thank you. Ano ngalo nyinta kila sinyala bangotino ita famala janda ninga sinya kote one.
Absolutely, anytime.
Much obliged. Thank you very much. This is where we draw the curtain for this week's civic education program at the seat. My name is Mustafa Jame. Brulamaral Giberal Mobe Dauda Nibe Watu. Na lokum civic education program o mi along konka soto kabonan Skype our radio and TV services. Program nyinkana CB2 CB3 kabo 5 o'clock UK time, kara 7 o'clock UK time. Program nyinka kanya wolefe. Me aje ko mi fore jabo mol dafa la, you can pass the message on burum wado en sunyindala bedanna janne possibility nala inshallah kabonan Skype our radio and TV services civic education program team mol be to yala nin dukulal be to yala nal bari malo Mustafa Jammeh membe sirin program o kunna fosibit nala inshallah alimbara.